man and a woman were asleep like two innocent babies. Suddenly, at 3 o'clock in the morning, a loud noise came from outside. The woman, bewildered, jumped up from the bed and yelled at the man, "Holy crap! That must be my husband." So the man jumped out of the bed, scared and naked, jumped out the window. He smashed himself on the ground, ran through a thorn bush and to his car as fast as he could go. A few minutes later he returned and went up to the bedroom and screamed at the woman, "I am your husband." The woman yelled back, "Yeah, then why were you running?" Saturday morning I got up early, quietly dressed and made my lunch, grabbed the dog and slipped quietly into the garage. I hooked up the boat to the truck and proceeded to back out into a torrential downpour. The wind was blowing 50 miles an hour, so I pulled back into the garage, turned on the radio, and discovered that the weather would be bad all day. I went back into the house, quietly undressed, and slipped back into bed. I cuddled up to my wife's back, now with a different anticipation, and whispered, "The weather out there's terrible." My loving wife of 10 years replied, "Can you believe my stupid husband is out fishing in that?" A young couple gets married, and the groom asks his bride if he can have a dresser drawer of his own that she will never open. The bride agrees. After 30 years of marriage, she notices that his drawer has been left open. She peeks inside and sees 3 golf balls and $1,000. She confronts her husband and asks for an explanation. He explains, "Every time I was unfaithful to you, I put a golf ball in the drawer." She figures 3 times in 30 years isn't bad, and asks, "But what about the 1,000? He replied, "Whenever I got a dozen golf balls, I sold them." One day a woman came up to her husband and told him that the TV was broken and she was missing her shows. "Does it say cable repairman anywhere on my forehead?" he asked. "No," she said. A few minutes later she came back and told him that the porch was breaking and it was dangerous. "Does it say carpenter anywhere on my forehead?" he asked. "No," she said again. A few minutes later she came back and told him the toilet was backed up. "Does it say plumber anywhere on my forehead?" he asked. "No," she replied. A couple of days later he went on a business trip. When he came back he asked how things had been. "Well," she said, "our neighbour down the street came over and fixed our TV, repaired our porch and unclogged our pipes." What did he ask for in payment? He wondered. All he asked for was a chocolate cake or a kiss, she told him. "What did you do?" he asked. She looked at him smugly and says, "Do you see Betty Crocker written anywhere on my forehead?" There was a couple sleeping. The wife had a bad dream. She woke up scared and cried. Her husband comforted her and asked why she cried. She replied, "I had a dream that a very rich and handsome man kidnapped me from you." Husband said, "It's okay, honey, it was just a dream." Wife responded loudly, "That's why I'm crying." On their way to get married, a young couple was involved in a fatal car accident. The couple find themselves sitting outside the pearly gates waiting for St. Peter to process them into heaven. While waiting, they begin to wonder, could they possibly get married in heaven? When St. Peter shows up, they ask him. St. Peter says, "I do not know. This is the first time anyone has asked. Let me go and find out." And he leaves. The couple sat and waited for an answer for a couple of months. While they waited, they discussed that if they were allowed to get married in heaven, should they get married? What with the eternal aspect of it all? What if it doesn't work? They wondered. Are we stuck together forever? After yet another month, St. Peter finally returns, looking somewhat bedraggled. "Yes," he informs the couple, "you can get married in heaven." "Great," said the couple. "But we were just wondering, what if things don't work out? Could we also get a divorce in heaven?" St. Peter, red-faced with anger, slams his clipboard onto the ground. "What's wrong?" asked the frightened couple. "Oh, come on," St. Peter shouts. "It took me 3 months to find a priest up here. Do you have any idea how long it'll take me to find a lawyer?" Bob and Martha have been married for 15 years. Every morning for 15 years, Bob wakes up, farts loudly, rolls over onto his back and gets up for work. Every morning for 15 years, Martha says, "One of these days you're going to fart your guts out." On Thanksgiving morning, Martha's preparing the turkey and gets an idea. Before her husband gets up, she creeps upstairs and places the turkey innards in his pyjama bottoms, giggling to herself. Well, later that morning, Bob wakes up and goes through his morning ritual. He screams as he goes running into the bathroom. Martha laughs, but is concerned after noticing that Bob has been in the bathroom for 3 hours. She runs upstairs and is about to knock on the door, when Bob opens the door pale as a ghost. He says, you were right, I did fart my guts out, but by the grace of God and these 2 fingers, I got them back up there again." An elderly couple is enjoying an anniversary dinner together in a small tavern. The husband leans over and asks his wife, "Do you remember the first time we had sex together over 50 years ago? We went behind this tavern where you leaned against the fence and I made love to you." "Yes," she says, "I remember it well." "Okay," he says, "how about taking a stroll around there again, and we can do it for old time's sake?" "Oh, Henry, you devil, that sounds like a good idea," she answers. There's a police officer sitting in the next booth listening to all this and having a chuckle to himself. He thinks, "I've got to see this. 2 old-timers having sex against a fence. I will just keep an eye on them so there's no trouble." He follows them. They walk haltingly along, leaning on each other for support, aided by walking sticks. Finally, they get to the back of the tavern and make their way to the fence. The old lady lifts her skirt, takes her knickers down, and the old man drops his trousers. She turns around, and as she hangs onto the fence, the old man moves in. Suddenly, they erupt into the most furious sex that the watching policeman has ever seen. They're bucking and jumping like 18-year-olds. This goes on for about 40 minutes. She's yelling, "Oh, God!" He's hanging onto her hips for dear life. This is the most athletic sex imaginable. Finally, they both collapse panting on the ground. The policeman is amazed. He thinks he's learned something about life that he did not know. After about half an hour of lying on the ground, recovering, the old couple struggle to their feet and put their clothes back on. The policeman, still watching, thinks, "That was truly amazing. He was going like a train. I've got to ask him what his secret is." As the couple pass, he says to them, "That was something else. You must have been having sex for about 40 minutes. How did you manage it? You must have had a fantastic life together. Is there some sort of secret?" "No, there's no secret," the old man said. 50 years ago, that darn fence wasn't electric." The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers and patrons. See you next week. Bye bye.